guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and in this video we're going to be looking at my new Acorn aka Atlas 7B shaper. So this is something that I've been looking for a long time, and it's something that I've had a bit of fun with over Christmas in a couple of videos. The long awaited suspense is over, so that's what I've bought. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk a little bit about Acorn versus Atlas. So we'll do that now. I've done some research. Acorn is a pretty seldom heard of name. I think they were made down on the south coast of the UK, and this one, well, this one certainly was marketed from a company on the south coast of the UK. I'm not sure whether the Acorn Works actually was. I've not got that far back into the history yet. But these are largely identical in almost every way to the Atlas 7B shaping machine. So it's a 7-inch shaper, and it's almost like the castings are identical. The only casting that's different is the little door casting that rather than saying Atlas, actually says Acorn on it. Apart from that, everything else as far as I can see is the same. This is on a different base, it's not on the original base, and I showed that in my recent leather video. So this is on a Condor base, which I'm not sure, I think they did woodworking machinery and old manual milling machines, things like that. So this has been put on a very heavy cast iron base, which will be good for the shaping machine. It will keep it nice and sturdy. So we'll look into that, but certainly Atlas, Acorn, one and the same thing as far as I can work it out. I can't see any other differences. We're going to be joined by a special guest. So this part of this was filmed over Christmas when the parcel got delivered, and had our son Nigel up to spend a few days with us over Christmas time. So Nigel's going to do a bit of a turn in the workshop and in the form of an interview. So Nigel's going to be asking me lots of questions, or certainly a handful of questions that probably you guys may ask in the comments potentially, or certainly just general points around the shaping machine. So we'll do that bit first, and then after that we'll do a bit of a walk round. So I'll do something that I very rarely do, which is go handheld. I'll try and make that as painless as possible, but we'll do a bit of handheld, we'll do a bit of a walk round and a bit of discussion around the machine and its general condition and general state, and we'll do a bit of close-ups here and there just to focus in on a few bits and pieces. And we'll just generally, as we're doing that and through the course of the episode, including the interview, there'll be some general discussion points around the reason it's here and what I'm planning to do with it and that kind of thing. So that'll all be part of the episode. So and as it says at the bottom, exciting times. So something that I've had my eye out for quite some time, and we'll go into a bit more detail on that as we go through. So without further ado, I shall invite my special guest in, and if we can drag him away from the camera out in the garden where he's busy photographing the night sky at the minute, and we will conduct the interview. So we'll catch you all in a moment.
Why have you bought a shaper?
What an incredibly good question. Why have I bought a shaping machine? So the reason I bought a shaping machine, there are many reasons probably, but I've always liked shaping machines. Interesting point, when I left school back in 1988 and first started my apprenticeship, the very first machine I worked was a shaping machine. I think it was a big Elliott, I think, from memory. I can't remember the model. So yeah, first machine I ever worked in a job role was a shaping machine. Always liked a shaper. I'm just fascinated with its movements, the way it works. It's, to my mind, very much like a steam engine or a traction engine in a lot of ways, in terms of the way it works, in terms of the mechanics that make it work and the way that it actually functions. So very nice machine to work, a very nice machine to watch working as well, for me and also for you guys as the viewers. So yeah, that's the kind of personal reasons I've bought one, and there are some sort of technical reasons I've bought one as well. this will enable me, it's an add-on to my mill. It doesn't take up a lot of space in the workshop. It's quite a slim machine from a footprint size perspective, so you can squash this in quite well, and it will allow me to do things very easily that I would struggle to do on the milling machine, or I would need to start buying lots of expensive tooling to do on the milling machine. So there's a few reasons there why I bought a shaping machine, and I think probably the last one is I've been on the lookout for one of these probably since I started doing the workshop. So I've been scouring the internet for nearly 2 years, waiting for the right thing at the right price. And what I mean by that is what I was willing to pay, what I could pay. I could have paid a lot more than this and got something that was ready to rock and roll. This one isn't ready to rock and roll. We've got to do a bit of work on this one, but I'm okay with that. This one I think has had very little work, seen very little active use, but it's also seen very little care and attention. So it does need a good sort of look over, once over, and a good tidy up, clean up and reset, and before we start using it for anything in anger. So those are all the reasons that I've bought a shaping machine, and I think it will be a very nice addition to the workshop and hopefully to the YouTube channel.
Isn't the milling machine capable of doing what the shaper does?
Comparing a shaper to a milling machine, again, a very good question. Yes, the shaping machine can do most things a milling machine can do, with the exception of drilling holes, boring holes, that kind of thing. And the shaping machine can do a lot of things that the milling machine can do on a much cheaper way based on the tooling it uses. So a shaping machine just uses basic lathe tooling, grind it yourself out of high speed steel, and because of the way the axes move on the shaper, you can create some really quite intricate geometry on the shaper that on the milling machine you would need specialist tooling for, such as dovetail cutters, woodruff cutters, that kind of thing, and they're quite expensive. They're difficult to regrind, they're expensive to regrind, they're expensive to buy in the first place. So there's some really clear benefits of having a shaper to having a milling machine. So that's, yes, the milling machine can do everything the shaper can do with the right tooling loaded into it. And being a recently set up shop, I don't have all of that tooling, and if I was to buy all of the tooling I could ever possibly need, I could have bought the shaper. So that's why we've bought the shaper.
Why is it in bits?
Another very good question. So the reason it's in bits is because I was working on my own with this when it got delivered, and I had to get it off the pallet and onto some rolls and moved into the shop into its current location, and it was just far too heavy to try and manhandle to get it off the pallet on my own. I couldn't get any lifting gear in here this side of the machine because the machine was blocking access based on how it was delivered. So I was really stuck, and the only way I could really move it was to strip it down, shed some weight, and so I could then move it. And it's quite interesting to note, it took 48 hours to move this machine from the south coast of England up to Scotland, and it took another 6 days for me to move it about 8 feet from the door to where it currently sits. So being in bits as it is at the minute, that's going to help me assess it, do a thorough assessment, and do any repair work or anything we need to do like that as we start to rebuild it in its final location.
So what are the benefits of a shaper then?
So the key benefits of a shaper are really the tooling costs. So on a shaping machine, all of the tooling is largely high speed steel. You grind it yourself, dead cheap to buy, cheap to grind, cheap to regrind, and you can produce lots of intricate geometry on a shaping machine that you would need specialist tooling for on a milling machine. So tooling costs are the primary driver in terms of benefits. There are other benefits as well, such as being able to put keyway slots in pulleys, things like that. Yes, you can kind of do them on the mill, you can kind of do them on the lathe, and I've shown a video of that previously, but on a shaper, dead easy to do, and you can put quite long keyway slots in very easily on a shaping machine. So that's another benefit. Another benefit for me is my milling machine currently has got no power traverse on any axis, therefore I have to be stood at the machine winding one or both or all of the handles at some point, whereas with the shaping machine I can set this up. It's got a power traverse on it, so if I've got a big area to face or something like that, I can set the machine running and I can go off and do other things in the workshop and leave the machine to run on its own. So yes, there are some distinct benefits to the home workshop of having a shaper. Are there any benefits in industry of them? Probably not these days. You know, largely the benefits that you get from one of these have been replaced by modern 5-axis CNC machine tools, things like that, and that's why you don't normally find a shaping machine like this in a modern manufacturing workshop, and typically why they end up in places like this, which is a good thing because it means the home workshop sort of area or environment is a good home for these to land up in, so that they don't just end up being cut up for scrap. So yeah, they're the key benefits of a shaping machine.
Are you doing a full strip down then?
So in terms of strip down, I'm not totally sure yet, we'll see as we get into it, but we're certainly going to be checking out the bits that we can check out. So like we've got on the surface table here, checking for squareness, checking for any kind of issues that we think we've got while it's in pieces, and there's an element of work we need to do with the paintwork because that's not in a particularly good state, so while we've got it in bits we might as well try and tidy some of that up. But I'm certainly not intending stripping this down to every last nut and bolt and completely rebuilding and refurbishing it. I'll strip the bits that look like they need to be stripped, I'll make good the bits that look like they need made good. We'll try and give it a bit of a cosmetic tidy, but I'm more concerned with functionality and making sure this is built well, running well, and doesn't have, you know, any slack or any issues through having the right shims in the right places and things like that. So we'll be doing a full mechanical strip and inspection and a bit of cosmetic work.
Is it 3-phase or single phase?
Fortunately, it's a single phase machine. Well, it's certainly got a single phase motor on it. So I've yet to try the motor, but hopefully it all works. It feels good. Obviously need to rewire it, make sure it's safe. We'll give it a test, but if everything's good, that means it's one machine that I don't have to worry about the issues that I do have with my static phase converter. So that should help me have another machine in the shop that, should I have any faults with the static phase converter at some point in the future, I've got a single phase machine that I can use for milling type applications, you know, if I've got a problem with the mill or something.
What do you intend to make with it?
So with this machine, intend to make really anything sort of model engineering, model engine type parts, anything with any sort of challenging geometry, sort of dovetails, things like that, slots, keyways, those types of things that are difficult to put in on the lathe or the mill, and anything really where expensive tooling or specialist tooling would be required on the mill. So if I'm thinking about new tool holders for the lathe where we need sort of woodruff type cutters or dovetail type cutters, those kind of things, those are the sorts of jobs that where the shaper machine will come in, you know, very handy in the workshop.
Last question, why are you spending on my inheritance?
A very good question. Think of it less as spending the inheritance and more of an investment, because all of this stuff will be here and you'll be able to use it for whatever you may want to use it for at some point in the future. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple of pictures up now. These are the pictures from the eBay auction when I bought the machine, so that you can see it in one piece. So you can see here the machine sat on the pallet ready for delivery in one piece, all together as it should be, all very original looking. And I'll just cut to a couple of other pictures where we'll take a bit of a closer look in on sort of the top end, so you can see it from a couple of different angles and see what it looks like. So that's it as a full and complete machine, and we'll now cut back to the garage where I'm going to walk around the machine handheld and we'll have a bit of a closer look at the state of the machine and have a bit of a discussion around what we think we might need to do to it. Okay, so excuse the handheld, I'm going to try and keep this as steady as I can. So we're just going to have a bit of a general walk around the machine in its current state now it's been stripped. So you can see there quite clearly it says Acorn Tools on the sort of removable door where you can get into the ball gear, and if I move down just below that you'll see the badge plate there, so E.H. Jones Machine Tools Limited, so that's where it was first delivered from. So if we just take a bit of a look in now at some of the slideways, really more than anything, where I've stripped it. So if we look at where the table slide goes up and down, what do we see? Well, there's some what looks to be very light rust, and it really isn't rust, it's just surface muck more than anything. It's not rust at all. So the slideways are in really good condition from what I've seen. I've not wiped these, I've not done anything with them other than the initial strip down. So this is as it was stripped. So I've not even tried cleaning these up in any way, shape or form, but I did have a quick run over them with my fingers, and there's no nasty, there's no nasty wear marks or nasty gouge marks or anything like that. Just generally dirty, really, more than anything. You can see the lead screw that lifts the table up and down and the lead nut all look to be in good condition. The other slideway looks the same, just mucky. If we come in and look at the top now, so these two bars here are what hold the ram down in place, and you can see the one from the right hand side has got the original scale plate in place for reading off, so all very original looking. Again, the adjustment on the ram lead screw all looks to be very, very good. Bit dirty, that's all. If we look at the slideways, again, very clean really. They're a bit dirty, and I think, one thing that I'm not too sure on and need to do some research. If we look in the top plate here, we can see a grease nipple in both of these top plates, and that's clearly what's been pumped through that. There's grease all in the slideways here. Now I'm sure that's supposed to be oil, not grease, in there. So these are going to be getting changed out, and we'll probably be making some little oilers up or something to go in there, and I might even drill and tap a couple more holes, and so so we're getting some good oil application into that ram. If we look at the state of the castings inside, and this is the issue with grease, when you get grease anywhere near a machine, it just traps swarf and muck. So on that bronze casting there, you can just see it's, now the casting's very good, but it's 1/16 of an inch deep in swarf, which clearly all needs to be cleaned. So there's some clean up work to do with all of that to get rid of that. And that's fairly simple. I could do most of that without stripping that down any further, albeit I think I am going to take this casting off and take the lead screw out. But then if I come back to this side and we just open this door, and we look in at the ball gear, and this is probably not going to show up, or maybe it will. It looks like bitumen. That's the best thing I can describe it at. It's thick, black, quite hard, tarry. Yeah, I really don't know what they've done in there, if I'm honest. It may just be really old grease, but I've never seen grease go like that before. So that all needs cleaned. Now, I was hoping not to have to strip all of that out of there, but just looking at the state of that, I think I'm going to have to, because there's no point doing the rest of the machine and leaving that in that state. It's all well lubricated, there's no rust, but it's very dirty, so that needs some attention. So we'll just cut it there and we'll move around the other side. So if we look in here, this is the carriage that runs up and down that supports the table, and the various shims that hold that in place. So I've kept all of those shim packs together and I've marked them up so I know which is which. This is the ratchet mechanism for the table traverse. I've not stripped that, that's just been taken straight off as it is. So I think it works, it feels like it all works. No reason to suspect it doesn't, but we need to investigate a bit more into that. And then if I come around this side, this is the side you actually stand and work the machine. It's got the original handle by the looks of it, which I like rocking horse poo from what I can understand. So it's in a reasonable state. It's been knocked about a little bit, but that fits everything. So it fits every movable axis on the machine pretty much. So we've got the original handle. Not done anything in here yet to strip any of this down. So this is where you set your traverse pitch in terms of how coarse it's going to be, and the two casting arms all look original that connect to the back side of this. And then round at the back we've got what looks to be an original pulley, again with another grease nipple. So I think all of the bearings in here are all greased. And then I can't really get round the back, but you can just see there the bracket where I've stripped the motor plate off. So we'll just come around the front again now. Oh, should have pointed out that's the electrical start stop that's on it. You can see by the state of the wiring, that's all, you know, I'm getting rid of all of that. That's all coming out. We're just going to rewire. We'll have a look at this switch and see if it looks like it's good enough to stay or whether we need something else. And then if I move down to the floor in front of the machine, you can see we've got the original two aluminium guards for the belts, one each side of the machine. We've got the original the ram here with the down feed and the clapper box at the front, and all that seems to work okay, you know, all quite free. We've got the transfer shaft that transfers the motor drive through to the adjustable pulleys for the speed selection. Again, the bearings in that feel pretty good. Nothing to concern ourselves with. The slideways on the ram, other than being plastered with grease, all look to be okay. The same with the clapper box slide. That all seems fairly free. It's a little bit tight and a little bit gummed up, so it needs stripping and cleaning. And then the table itself, as you saw earlier, is in reasonable condition. There's no nasty horrible marks on it. So very original machine overall. Obviously the base casting isn't original, but the rest of it all looks fairly original. And did my usual thing when I was looking at this on eBay. I was looking at, you know, the nuts to see how rounded off they were, to see what kind of a life this thing's had, and all looking age related and all very original. So I really don't think this has had a lot of work or a lot of use. But one thing that is very evident with this, and I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, I can't really tell, it's got wood dust everywhere. So this has been in the workshop where sawdust has been being created, so there's lots of sawdust mixed in with oil and grease and sat on the machine. So all of that needs to come off and be cleaned up. And the final thing really that's a bit of a shame is the paintwork. So, you know, if I go anywhere on this, if I come back here, you can clearly see it's had two colours of paint. It's had this green colour, and then on top of that it's had this grey colour put on. Now whoever put the grey colour on did a pretty poor job of it, I've got to be honest. So if I move to anywhere on the machine and I just scratch with my fingers just gently, the grey stuff's just peeling off and going straight back to the green. So there was no prep work done before this grey went on. And does it matter? Not really. Will it affect the way the machine works? Not really. I'm really torn as to whether I do anything with that, whether I take this back to at least the green paintwork, re-prep it, put some better paint on, tidy it up while it's in bits before I put it back together, or whether I just clean the slideways up, clean all the mechanisms up, make sure everything's good, put it back together and just live with the paintwork as it is. And I could do either. You know, I'm not fussy about this looking like it's brand new, because it's not brand new. It's a tool to be used in the workshop, but this paint situation is just going to bug me, because every time I knock it or touch it, grey paint's going to be flaking off, exposing more of that horrible green colour. So not decided on that. If anybody's got any preferences from an audience perspective, because you're coming on the journey with me, let me know what you think I should do, because I'm really sat right on the fence on that one. So yeah, that's largely it. The one bit I've not shown you, it's across the other side of the garage. Down here is the single phase motor. This is actually a Hoover motor, so I immediately thought Japanese when I saw the word Hoover on it. It's actually made in Glasgow. I'm going to struggle to get there with one hand, apologies. So there we go, that's the motor. And again, apologies, I'm trying to do this one-handed. It feels okay, but there's a bit of a funny noise coming from the fan in there, and I think that's just muck that's probably got in that just need, I don't know, I really don't know. You know, electrics really aren't my thing, as most of you know by now. So this will be one of the last things that goes back on, and I'll have some time to think about whether we strip this. And if I do strip it, I won't be doing anything electrically to it. I'll just be cleaning muck out of it and making sure it looks okay, because my knowledge is lost beyond there. It looks like it's had some kind of an earth strap on it at some point. Now that wasn't connected to anything on the machine. Again, don't really know if it needs it. Not really sure. You'd expect it does because it's got this on it, but really don't know. Any help appreciated. So yeah, that's a quick walk round the Shaper. So this is going to figure over the coming months. I'm not in any tearing hurry to do this, so we'll pick away at it bit by bit, and you know, largely I need to make the decision fairly readily whether I'm doing anything with this paintwork, because that's going to affect the amount of strip down I need to do. I think what I can do is get the ball gear situation in there sorted out first, because I've got to do that anyway, and by the time I've got all of that stripped out, it might well be worth attacking this paint at that point, because the machine's pretty much going to be completely stripped other than taking the casting off the base. So yeah, any thoughts? What do you want to see, guys? Let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think we should do. Okay, all that being said, I will come back to the board and we'll wrap this episode up. Well, there we go then, guys. That's the shaping machine. So I am absolutely massively excited about that. It's something that I've been waiting for, and as I say, I'm looking for a long time. I'm really looking forward to getting that up and running in the workshop and having a play. As I said, I've used one of these probably for a couple of days back in 1988, so I'm not a shaping expert at all. I've got no real experience in using them other than a couple of days 30 plus years ago. So I'm going to be needing to do quite some research in terms of the types of tools for different situations and things like that. I'm going to be looking hard at Michelle's channel, Rusty Knox. He's done lots of shaping videos and lots of other creators as well, trying to get myself up to speed with the shaping machine itself and how best to use it. And moreover, you know, I can get the machine back to a usable state because it's just like any other machine. It's slideways, lead screws, lead nuts. That's fairly easy. Once you get to that point, it's then knowing what are the tricks and what are the bits and bobs that you need that make life really easy from a job setup, that kind of thing. Yes, I know you can stick a vise on top of the table, that's dead easy, and if you're doing a small square stop, great, dead easy. It's when you're doing things other than that, where you're not having the vice on and you need to strap jobs to the table, or you need fixtures and things like that. So lots and lots of learning for me to do, and really looking forward to using a shaping machine again after all these years. And also what I'm planning to do, hopefully, is I need to do probably a bit of investment in camera technology, and this is way out in the future, but I'm hoping to do some kind of slow motion camera stuff, not just of the shaper but of the other machine tools as well, just small pieces, but the shaper especially would look really good in slow motion, and I've seen some other people doing it, and it's just something that I want to add, because you can really then see on any machine the cutting action. It's just a really good way of actually seeing what's going on at the cutting edge, if you want to call it that. So all that being said, lots of waffling in this video, so apologies for that. I hope you've enjoyed a look round my new toy. I'm not in any mad tearing hurry to do this. I'm not going to rush it. I've still got my helmet engraving machine I've not touched since that came into the shop a good couple of months ago now. That may take priority over the shaper, if I'm honest. I'd like to get that engraving machine stripped and rebuilt and commissioned and in use so that I can use it. And then when we do get onto the shaper, what I don't want to do is do shaper video after shaper video after shaper video of me stripping it, making it good, because that's fine for a couple of weeks, but that will get boring for you guys and for me as well. So this will be a long sort of burning project as we go through 2022, and I'll every now and again chuck a video in, bit of an update, show a bit of the work that's going on, just so that it doesn't come too tedious, video after video, same thing. So as I said, I hope you've enjoyed that. Absolutely, please, if you've got experience of a shaping machine, if you've got comments, if you've got suggestions, if you've got electrical experience regarding motors and wiring, all that good stuff, you've seen what I'm dealing with, I'm absolutely open to help, advice, support from anybody who's got the knowledge. So because this really is out my comfort zone, really, honestly, from a machine perspective. So yeah, really looking forward to learning something new. Right at the end of the video, just before the closing screen, I'll just put a quick shot up of the night sky that Nigel shot while he was here over Christmas, in between coming into the shop and doing the interview with me. So we live in a very dark part of Scotland. Occasionally, especially this time of year, we get some good skies. It actually wasn't the best night. We've had much brighter nights in terms of being able to see more stars than this particular night, but Nigel got a really good shot of the Milky Way using his camera, so I'll put that up for a few seconds, let you have a look at that. That was just shot out of our garden, and I'll put a link to Nigel's photography channel. He's quite into photography and he's got lots of other stuff, so I'll just put a link there. You can have a quick look at what we sometimes see outside at night time when it's, and I said sometimes because it's normally raining and cloudy, but yeah, when it is clear we get some fantastic skies here. So with all that being said, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you to the new subscribers that have come along. Hope you've enjoyed that, and we will catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.